Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show.
Hello.
Hello.
Good day.
Good morning.
Good evening.
Good afternoon.
Good grief.
Goodness.
Loch Ness.
Yeah.
Yes. A palpable
Curses.
hit.
A
Welcome to the
palpable hit.
Benji and Nick Show.
Welcome. Sit down, put your feet up, or down, or round and round, wherever you want to put them. Just put them somewhere, please.
No, not there.
Not there, for goodness. It's all over the cake. Now the cake, you've spilt the cake and the
How do you
tea.
spill a cake?
I don't know. It's a
By the way,
special
I'm
cake.
Nick.
I'm Benji. Pleasure.
Yeah,
Pleasure's
so-
all mine. Pleasure's all mine.
And this week we're talking about the latest TV we've been watching. We'll be reading out some of your emails and we'll be talking to Jamie Anderson. We'll also be revealing the latest competition winners a week late. Sorry about that. The prizes are the Tripods box set and I've stopped typing.
You stopped typing. Playboys, Spies and Private Eyes.
A book from Coit Media all about the ITC series. But first of all, we're going to talk about the latest TV we've been watching. Normally, quite often, we designate a particular program for us to watch and for us to talk about. But this week, there's no rules.
There ain't no rules. We just go. We
There's
just
no
go,
rules to
don't we? We
love.
just go for it, you know.
What have you been watching recently, Benji?
Well, I've actually surprisingly been watching something new that I really quite liked. Yeah, and
Has the whole world turned upside
it's
down?
crazy, yeah. A lovely modern program, though. It is newish. It's on BBC One at the moment. Ghosts, which is a comedy. Which, do you know what? I've kind of lost faith in recent comedies because they don't make me laugh quite like the older ones do.
Right.
But this one I thought is really quite nicely done. It's really funny. There's some great.
Would you like to explain the format?
Yes, I'd love to explain the format. It's basically it's very similar to, I think everybody else said, was it the Ghosts of
Motley Hall.
Motley Hall, that's it. I was going to say the Ghosts of Glenley Close, but that's a place just here for some reason where I live. There's that. I hope it's
Glen Close. Yeah.
Glen Close, yeah.
The Ghosts of Glen Close. She looks
Just
quite
follows
haunted,
her around,
doesn't she?
yeah. It's a program about this couple. They move into this house which they inherit, and it's all about the ghosts which inhabit the house. But the interesting thing is that the main character out of the two living people, she has a fall and sort of nearly dies in the process, and thus she can see the ghosts and communicate with the ghosts, but nobody else can. So it's all about.
Doesn't she have a fall because one of the ghosts pushes her out the window?
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Pushes the ghost of an MP who got done in a sex scandal. So the top half he's wearing a suit, and then he's wearing no trousers. He's just in his pants, which I quite like, and just wanders around the house.
And if you're an American, underpants.
Underpants, yes, your undergarments, your loons.
I mean, that's right. They're all wearing what they wore at the point of their death. So there's a scoutmaster with an arrow through his neck.
It's really, there's something really nice about it. I mean, it's the whole thing's is put together by the Horrible Histories team, who are very good. You know, they've got a great history of working together, and you can tell Horrible Histories. Yeah, what did I say?
No, you did say.
Yeah.
You just said they had a great history of putting things together.
Oh,
and I said
horrible history of working together.
It's a kids' history program, Horrible Histories, for those who've never watched it.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Whereas this is
Horrible Histories.
So you can tell somebody's got a son.
Yes.
But this is more for older adults, really. But it's just really, I found it very charming, and I found myself wanting to watch it because it's quite fun and touching at times as well. I'm looking forward to it. It's on tonight, actually. It's the final episode in this series, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. I was really So I was quite proud of myself for enjoying that, because normally I don't watch many.
It's a very old-fashioned sort of program. That's why you like it.
Yeah, I suppose literally in the sense of ghosts centuries old. But yeah, no, absolutely right. It certainly is.
I'd love to know how it's doing. Do you know what the viewing figures are?
I don't know. Let me have a look now.
Also, the star, whose name I forget, she's sort of famous for being in Call the Midwife, which is a popular Sunday night BBC One drama series.
Yeah, huge, isn't it?
But she was also had a Dalek on her back in Resolution, the New Year's Day special episode of Doctor Who. So I feel like I know her, but I've never met her. But I just watched loads of footage of her and had to match her voice in the dubbing session afterwards to possess her with the Dalek. Any sign of viewing figures?
Yeah, look at so the first episode got 5.5. Second episode 4, and then it's floating at around just under 370 for the rest of it, really, which is all right. So, is
that all right? I mean,
it's not great.
Bring
but then
back series when they're not like that. I don't know. Are those consolidated figures with the iPlayer catch up?
I have no idea. I do not know. The viewing figures on this table are currently a mix of 7-day and 28-day figures. All data is available. So yes, it might be. I guess it must be. Yeah, of course it is.
Okay. Well, it's not a huge success, is it? But I don't know what they expect for a show like this.
Well, I mean, I can imagine that this particular show would have found itself traditionally on on BBC Three, perhaps. It's actually on BBC One, interestingly enough. But yeah, I'm out of touch because I don't know what modern comedy really gets in terms of viewing figures.
That's a good point. Yes. Well, let's hope it comes back. My only problem with it is that but I've always had this problem with comedy, even though comedy is humour and comedy is hugely important to me. There's a lot of comedy of frustration. So she's the only one who can see all the ghosts. Her husband sort of accepts that she can, but he can't see them. So they're constantly in situations with people where the ghosts do something shocking or annoying, and in spite of herself, she refers to them or reacts to them. And of course, viewed from the non-ghost viewing point of view, like the neighbours who are around or whoever, she looks like a complete lunatic because she suddenly jumps out of her skin, or goes "shut up," in the middle of a sentence because they're saying something to her. And I find that funny once, but
they rely upon it a bit.
After a while, it just becomes so. It's comedy of frustration because she's always going to be thwarted, and I sometimes find that a bit wearing. I've been watching episode 5. I've watched all the episodes, and I've been watching episode 5, and I can't get through it. I keep stopping because I find it so frustrating. I think, oh God, stop doing that.
It's episode 5 in particular. It's quite full on. I'd be interested to see how it gets on tonight with whatever it's about.
But it always does surprise, doesn't it? It has a depth of emotion to it you don't expect.
Definitely. It's got. I totally agree with your point. If I'm to draw one more criticism to it, it would only be that the boyfriend or husband of the main character. I'm not a big fan of stupid characters who are actually stupid to a point where nobody is actually that stupid. Like you can be comedically stupid. So I can it's fine with the
you
ghost
think he's
side
too
of things.
stupid?
Well, yeah, because it's fine with the ghosts because they're sort of comedy characters, but because he's meant to be, he just, I don't know, it strikes me he's a bit of a buffoon.
Well, when he was going to fix that door with sellotape. Exactly,
yeah, stupid things like that. It's like you're an actual moron, but she's quite a strong-minded, fun character. Yeah. Why would she be with him? He's a Burke. And
it does. That's right, because a lot of the time it seems very realistic, and then it does something like that because literally no one would do that.
Nobody would do something stupid like that. Yeah,
not even a child would think of fixing a door with sellotape.
I tell you what,
it's a throwaway line. It's a joke, isn't it?
But
and they couldn't resist. Yes,
but it's like another example of that something that really didn't resonate with me is that. Do you remember they brought back Reggie Perrin? Now, I didn't mind some of that, but there was one character in particular which actually completely sabotaged the whole thing, which was the woman who played the counsellor in it, because she had such a level of utter stupidity in the character that was so completely unbelievable that I switched off almost immediately. Well, as soon as that character was definitely established to be in it all the time, I was like, I'm not having this because it's just irritating. I don't want to be irritated when I turn on the television. I want to be charmed and entertained.
I don't want to be irritated.
I get enough irritation in life. It's people always making a bloody noise on my street, and the last thing I want is to have some idiot on the screen in my spare time.
I mean, I think it's a thing, that applies to drama as well as comedy, is that it's beholden really to the creators of fiction to set out their stall convincingly so that the audience knows the parameters of it. And if they suddenly leap outside of it, they've got to have a darn good reason for doing it. So suddenly, if you create a situation where a grown man thinks he is going to sellotape a piece of wood onto a front door that's got a hole in it. I mean, it's making us laugh, isn't it? That's interesting, but
it's making me laugh because you're using it in this example. When you say a grown man is doing that, yes, it's funny, but...
Well, that's why they thought it was funny in the script room, didn't they? They all laughed at it and thought, we'll put that in. That's hilarious that he's that stupid. But then you think, does that fit with the style of things? It would be more reasonable if the ghosts thought that was
exactly, or if
one
of the ghosts
bonkers,
exactly, if one of the ghosts said to Alison that she said you could try fixing it with a bit of sellotape, that would be amusing, and I would say they're ghosts, they're silly, they're very out of touch because they've been dead for 1,000,000 years, but and so things like that irritate me, but probably other people love it. Whereas completely surreal comedy, like for example, do you remember the Mighty Boosh?
Yes.
Mighty Boosh. Now that's completely bonkers, off the walls. Bonkers
you could do that in
comedy.
That. Yeah.
Bob Fossil, the character in it, was like the zookeeper, in the owner of the zoo, is a complete buffoon. But that's funny because nothing in that world is grounded in any real realism apart from pop culture references. So it's fine. Yes. But when she's clearly a strong character and you're clearly meant to, the whole point is that it's a real person putting up with this crazy ghost characters in that context. It's just like, we've explained this, but so that's ghosts. I enjoy
typically
it,
one has to explain everything 3 times. I think.
Well, quite once, twice, and thrice.
A lady. I feel. What is her name? The actress.
Okay, so the character's Alison. So her name is Charlotte Ritchie.
Charlotte Ritchie. Sorry, Charlotte, we've not been saying who you were. And she's a very good actor. I think she absolutely
she's great.
Nails it. She is brilliant.
That's the one thing. The one thing I would say actually is out of all of this, you look at her and you think, of course she's just gonna have a great career. She already has got a great career, but she's going to continue to have a great career.
One of the things that amuses me particularly is the character the young character and who doesn't know about sex but is desperate to find out.
Oh yeah.
So Charlotte Ritchie can never have sex again because every time her and her husband are starting to think about it, this character pops up in a kind of, ooh, what are they going to do? And it's this awful thing that she can never be rid of them, and wherever she goes she sees dead people.
Yeah, I mean that, and it's I tell you, there's that great scene
with the doctor.
That was So she's talking. She goes to see the doctor to essentially tell him that she's seeing ghosts, and she explains her point, and then the doctor says, I can see why you might think that because I'm a ghost. And then he disappears.
He said, well, you came so close to dead that you now see dead people. And he said, well, she said, I don't think I do. And he said, well, can you see me?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then the real doctor comes in and sort of just sits in his place,
Absolute class, though. It's pretty good gag, that one.
That is an excellent gag. It's so excellent that they put it in the trailer.
Yeah, well, it's
the best gag of the entire series.
I think it probably is because it's a really
so far.
Yeah, so far. Yeah, who knows what tonight will bring? But yeah, it's a big thumbs up for me on that one. It's nice to see some fresh. I know people are saying that it is similar to things in the past, but
to Glenn Close. Yeah.
To Glenn Close, yeah, and people. I've also seen. Things comparing it to Rent a Ghost and also a bit of Randall and Hopkirk, but
There are similarities, yes.
There are similarities,
I think it's an homage to all those old series.
Definitely, but it feels fresh, and I like it. I like it for that reason. It feels fresh and mildly comforting, which is nice as well.
Yes, I wonder whether it'll come back for a second series. Surely they'd have confirmed it by now, wouldn't they?
I don't know. I would have. I am quietly confident that it will come back for a second series because of the people involved in it.
It's odd scheduling, isn't it? Monday night as well. It started on a bank holiday Monday, which is a big viewing night. But then that doesn't work. I think they showed 2 in the first week, didn't they?
I can't remember because I caught up with it late on about I think about a week or so. Yeah, I think they must have done because I thought, there's another episode.
Yeah, I certainly watched the first 2 episodes in one go.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad you like that. Yes. Not perfect, but it's interesting.
But nice.
We choose a modern program that is reminiscent of so many and has been accused of being a copy of so many others.
I don't ever see that there's a real problem in that.
But it's interesting that that's what we like about it in a way. It's our old-fashioned taste.
Oh, if it gets a thumbs up from us, it's going to be all right, isn't it? Really. Let's be honest here, you know.
Now, did you, on my recommendation, watch The Eagle Has Landed again?
I haven't had time. I've been a bit busy. My other half has been down this weekend, so I've not had the time to say I'm going to stop talking to you and watch a bunch of Germans being shot.
That's fair enough. Yes, The Eagle Has Landed, starring Michael Caine, who sort of does a German accent.
Sure, does it probably a bit like that.
Yes, I'm German and I speak like that. I don't know, that sounds Afrikaans now.
Oh dear, but it's one of those films. I haven't watched it in such a long time. It makes me think of Sundays. Because
well, it was on a Sunday, I think. Well, no, actually, it was on BBC iPlayer, and I watched it on the Sunday.
It's got Donald Sutherland in it, hasn't it?
Yes, it has, playing an Irish traitor. I'd just like to tell folks of what I messaged you and said, The Eagle Has Landed is on the BBC iPlayer. Alert all units, mobilise immediately.
That made me laugh when I saw that.
And you sent me a gif of some Messerschmitts.
Yeah, flying off. Well, you have to, and it's a film about the Germans. There's those Germans. So what is it about this film, Nick, that does it for you?
Well, can I say from the outset that it is a load of old nonsense?
All the best things are.
It is so beautifully done. It's got fantastic music. It's beautifully directed in a very standard sort of way, and it's got a great cast. It's got Robert Duvall and Anthony Quayle as Nazis, Michael Caine and his troop of paratroopers who've been disgraced because they tried to save a Jewish woman from the clearing out of the ghetto in Poland, and were unsuccessful. But Michael Caine's Nazi expressed his disapproval of the extermination program, so he was immediately sentenced to death. But instead they went one step worse than death, and they sent them to the Channel Islands, where they've had to work no, it's lovely in the Channel Islands, by the way, but they've had to work doing something, attaching torpedoes to British ships, but the torpedoes often blow up. I don't know what they are, limpet mines or something. And out of his 34 men, only 16 are left, and they're all being blown up. And they get the chance to go on this mission to capture Winston Churchill, which is a mad idea that allegedly Hitler had and that got forgotten about. But Anthony Quayle's character gets Robert Duvall's character to do a feasibility study of it. And during the process of it, he discovers that Winston Churchill is going to be near to a fairly undefended bit of the eastern coast of Britain. And also, up pops Michael Caine's disgraced paratroop commander, who has got all the right qualifications to lead the squad because he was educated in England, speaks perfect English.
Oh, yeah, it speaks perfect.
And not a lot of people know that.
Not a lot of people know that.
Mine was the worst impersonation of Michael Caine you can. So suddenly Robert Duvall thinks, "Ooh, this is going to work." Actually, Anthony Quayle's really cross about it, but Donald Pleasance as Himmler thinks it's a good idea and gives him a letter. Which I'm telling you the whole plot. Gives him a letter which is from Hitler, which says anything Robert Duvall wants to do is okay by me. Yours sincerely, Hitler.
Definitely not what Hitler would have done.
So he hands this letter around to everyone, and they all let him make this mission go. And then once the mission is off, where the Michael Caine and his mates are posing as Polish paratroopers, so the British won't be suspicious of them because they sound foreign, but they're actually Germans. Donald Pleasance tears up the letter that Hitler has sent Robert Duvall. I love the way I can't remember any of the characters' names. So Hitler wrote to Robert Duvall. And so he now, basically, if the mission goes wrong, it's all his fault. Which, of course, the mission has to go wrong because, of course, as we know, unlike in Inglourious Basterds, where they do assassinate Hitler, no one assassinated or captured Winston Churchill. Shall I spoil the ending for you?
No, because I think I'd quite like to watch this again. I can't remember the ending particularly.
For the first 5 million times I saw this film, the ending always surprised me. This time I was fully ready for it. But it's fantastic. It's such a great movie. It's got Larry Hagman playing a mad American commander who's just like idiotic.
It's on the iPlayer at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you better grab it before it goes. It's got Sir John Standing, who I've worked with on The Prisoner. He plays the local vicar.
Oh, good role.
Who loses his rag.
I've always wanted to play a vicar. That would satisfy me. Just a very mundane vicar that doesn't say an awful lot would do me.
Oh, I played a murderous vicar once who wasn't really a vicar.
Well, I'm not surprised if he's a murderous vicar.
Yeah, it was in a play called Trap for a Lonely Man. But I won't go into that. But I got to wear a dog collar, which was
that's
very
nice.
exciting. Yeah.
That is nice. Interesting enough about this, I'm just looking on the Wikipedia for it now. The production company is ITC.
Yeah, I know. It's a Lou Grade production.
Isn't that interesting? It's available for 15 days. So
okay,
I'll
you've got 15 days. Yeah, it's absolutely bang on, great nonsense war movie fun.
I love a good war film,
but ridiculous. It's ridiculous, but it's told impeccably. And one of the most exciting things about it for me is that it's got one of those closing credit sequences that they used to do in the 60s and 70s. Because what year is this? This must be early 70s, must it?
This is release dates in the UK. We'll say it was released in 77.
Oh God, they were.
But though interestingly enough, it was released in March 77 for the UK, but was released the 25th of December 76 in Finland and Sweden for some reason. Here's a Christmas Day treat.
Well, we demand to know the reason for this.
What is that all about? Yeah,
no idea.
Curious.
But at the end, right, rather than just running the names, they do that thing where each character, they have shots of them, and it says
laughing or doing
yeah.
You have been watching
Michael Caine as Obersturmführer, whatever.
Oberst Kurt Steiner. That's me.
Kurt Steiner's the name.
My friend
Pretending
here, Robert Duvall,
is
who
the
plays Oberst Max Ruddle. Not a lot of people know that. Donald Pleasance is Heinrich Himmler. Horrible bloke. Heinrich, that is, not Donald. Donald's one of our best.
He plays him as a sort of laughing idiot when he sort of points out to Duvall that, it's a crazy mission, but he said, so I find myself in a position where I'm taking orders from you. He does this really, and that's what they show in the credits at the end, the shot of him going, It's really disturbing performance. I don't know whether Himmler was known for sort of laughing like an idiot. Probably he was.
Well, I mean, he was. I know that he was a thoroughly horrible and a thoroughly weird man as well. A real weasel of a man.
Well, that's Donald Pleasance, his perfect casting, isn't he? He only ever played slightly weird people. Always had that kind of mad stare.
That strange sort of way of.
So they cast him as the blind man in the Great Escape.
He's great in that one.
Let me go with you. Let me go with you.
Let me come with you. He was the Birdman of Alcatraz as well, wasn't he?
Was he? I thought that was Burt Lancaster.
I thought it was him. I thought maybe it wasn't. It was Birdman. Who am I thinking of? Alcatraz. John.
Maybe he was in it. Maybe he played a horrible warder or something.
I think
There's no escape.
Yeah, I think I just dreamt the whole thing. I don't know why I do. Yeah, interestingly, I've been in a bit of a war mood lately, and I've been watching.
You've been very aggressive.
I've been very aggressive. I've decided to invade the Channel Islands. No, I've been watching The World at War. Because,
oh yes,
yes. Because I remember
a documentary series that covers the whole of the Second World War.
I think the best documentary series on the Second World War. I think it's such a great. It's particularly brilliant because it was made in the 70s, and so what you get is a lot of people from a variety of different backgrounds who were there, including, interestingly enough, because they're on the Blu-ray box set that I've got, they have 3 special new episodes that they put together in recent years.
Yeah, I know, with oh no, you see, I thought it was Kenneth Branagh doing more World at War episodes, but in fact he did World War One in colour. So it was Eric Porter who did these 3.
Yeah, Eric Porter did it, and does it very straight in it. He's very, it's kind of relies more upon the interview sections. But there's some really interesting stuff in there. One in particular, because they did 3 episodes. One was about Nazi Germany, in the rise to everything that went on. One was in the latter stages of the war, and the other was just about the death of Adolf Hitler. But one thing that really interested me was that there's one bloke in there in particular who was talking about the death camps, actually, who was a blatant Nazi and a complete denier of it all. And he was there saying, he said we were shown the camps, and people inside, the many prisoners of war like myself, said it was all a great show, and that the Americans put on a show, and it is ludicrous. It never happened. And you just thought, oh, blimey. And the funniest thing is that in the programme that I've been watching earlier on, whenever he spoke about things, every time I saw him, I thought, something here strikes me. I think that he still believes in all this Nazi mumbo jumbo. I think he's a closet fascist, and I think he's a horror. And then when it comes out with that, I'm like, oh god, of course he is. But really interesting, and it's just interesting to see so many different perspectives of every single theatre, nearly every single main country involved in the conflict, and people from both sides and all walks of life. And so it is, if you've got an interest in history, it really is worth checking out The World at War, because it's just such a well-made series with fantastic musical score. Definitely. And wonderfully artistically put together as well. In there, it's do you know what I mean? It's like,
it's a beautifully made piece. It is the sort of gold standard, isn't it, of
definitely
documentaries about the Second World War. I mean, other documentaries can focus in on particular things, but this is, and plus the fact, as you mentioned, it was made in the 70s, so a lot of the surviving participants in the conflict are still alive and very compos mentis, and are give very informative interviews. You sort of feel quite privileged to see these people reflecting upon the awful things that happened. And yes, and as you say, people from both sides of the conflict.
Definitely, absolutely. Fascinating and heartbreaking at the same time when you see he doesn't hold back on anything, and it can really shock you at times with what you see, but it kind of brings it all to life and makes you realise how truly awful the conflict was, because it's so easy, isn't it, to watch all these films of
that glorify it and
glorify
make it exciting.
One of my favourite films is Battle of Britain, as you know, I think it's the one that you love as well. That film, it's all great when you're thinking Spitfires and flying around and shooting
they
people
show
down.
the horror of it as well.
They do show the horror of it, but not quite. I don't know. Maybe not in a way like this does, where you really just feel at the end of it, you feel disgusted by the whole thing.
Well, as I've said before, I think, so I'll say it briefly. My father was very keen on me watching it. And I showed an interest and wanted to watch it anyway. I watched it every week when it was shown back in the day. And then he made sure that I watched the episode on the Holocaust as well. He said, I think they showed that episode later or something because it was particularly disturbing. And he said, I think it's important that you stay up and watch this. It won't be pleasant for you, but you must learn about this because we must make sure this never happens again. And I felt a great. I think it's the first time I'd ever seen images like that, and I don't forget them to this very day.
I think certainly that particular episode is the most powerful out of all of them. It's so powerful. It's so, and like we were saying a moment ago, and like you say, it really doesn't hold back. It shows exactly how it is. It's horrific.
To be fair about the series, and not to entirely heap loads of praise on it, I think that one criticism, which is nitpicky, that you could level at it, is that it is not it's not a trailblazing series. It very much presents the received wisdom on the Second World War. It is a retelling of things, of assumptions about the Second World War.
Of course,
they're which is fine because it's probably everything they say is true, but there is no sort of. These days, when they make documentaries about conflicts, it's always because they have to sell it harder now, don't they, to get people's attention because there are so many channels. They have to say, like, this is just not another documentary about the Titanic sinking. We've discovered that actually all the rivets in the Titanic were made from candy floss, and this is what we're going to. You know what I mean? It always has to be a weird angle. They have to say, we've gone back and looked again, and we've discovered that the Battle of Bosworth actually happened 3 fields away, and not in the field that everyone says it happened in. It always has to be something like that, rather than this is the story we all know, and we are setting it on celluloid to tell you about it.
It is. It's funny. It's always the same. It's always that thing. Using new, never before used technology, we are going to analyse the Battle of Bosworth from a completely different angle.
Exactly.
With reconstructive bone technology and high quality doodahs and biscuits.
And we've hired a load of visually interesting and diverse people to make it even more entertaining,
Yeah, no, it's absolutely.
Whereas for this, they could say, what we've done here is just gone to a load of old history books and more or less read out what's in them and edited together as much stock footage as we can find. But, of course, and it's interesting, they didn't really sell it like this at the time. They did loads of incredible archive interviews with survivors. So that's I suppose that is the unique angle.
That's the unique angle, isn't it?
Which it's kind of not remembered for in a way, is it? It always, when I've rewatched episodes, I've always been slightly taken aback where there's 70s grainy 16mm colour footage of some bloke going, oh yeah, it was terrible, and you think, oh my God, that guy, I mean, it was only
about 30
years before, 20-something years before, really. I mean, when I was a kid, we talked about the war being a long time ago, but actually it was fairly recent history for us.
But these are people talking about the war who had served, whose hair was still not completely grey by that point. And I mean, I've got the Blu-ray release, which has been wonderfully remastered, and it looks incredible. I mean, I've never seen footage like in such high quality. But I think as well, it's edited together in quite a striking cinematic way with sort of musical montages, and it's actually quite artistic in the way that it does things, and that the reoccurring themes in the music, like the music of the Ardennes forest and the French. There's sort of.
Who did it? Was it Carl Davis?
Yes, it was. Yeah. Absolutely. And the sweet, you can listen to the music on. I think it's on Spotify and things like that. It's really great to listen to. But no, just fantastic series. Really thought provoking. Watch, but
excellent.
I bought the DVD because when we were going to Chicago. I was in the hotel night before I was flying off, and put on the TV, and the World at War was on, and I saw one episode, and I thought, I've not watched this in so long, and saw that it had been digitally restored and remastered, and absolute worth every penny.
Brilliant. There's just one last thing I want to mention,
Okay.
which is the Orville,
Great.
which, regular
Very
listeners
popular.
to this podcast will know that I've fallen in and out of love with a couple of times. I'm definitely right back in love with it. Have you seen it yet?
Not at the time, mate. Not at the time. I've been too busy watching.
You got the time to watch all of the World at War?
Yeah, but that's breakfast television, isn't it?
Is it good?
I don't
You
know. Well,
could
I've
watch
finished
the
it
Orville
now. I
at
can watch the
breakfast.
Orville.
Yeah. But the Orville is, for those of you who don't know, it's basically Seth MacFarlane, the well-known American comedy writer and actor. Is that how you'd...
Yeah, I think that's how you'd say it. Yeah.
I wasn't really aware of his work before, but he's obviously a massive Star Trek fan, and he's had the cheek to put the credit created by Seth MacFarlane on this production, when clearly he's just nicked everything from Star Trek. And not only has he nicked all the ideas from Star Trek, he's nicked some of the cast from Star Trek, and some of the directors from Star Trek, and some of the producers from Star Trek. And what he's produced is something that looks rather like Star Trek. Rather like Star Trek The Next Generation, except sort of made now. It's very old-fashioned in a sort of 80s way, but he's augmented it with fantastic visual effects. And in spite of all the plagiarism, the blatant plagiarism that hasn't been legally challenged at all, which baffles me, he's created something that is really rather lovely. And full of proper science fiction.
Is it a
It's
comedy?
Star Trek it's Star Trek. I was about to say it's Star Trek with the occasional joke, and the joke is that people react in realistic ways that people never did in Star Trek. So, like in a recent episode, when the whole crew are held hostage in one of the cargo bays. The problem of where they go to the toilet is dealt with in a comedy line as well. And one of the characters, Gordon, who's the pilot, who's my favourite character actually, who always has an inappropriate turn of phrase, he said, I've just been in P Corner, there's no bathroom. And then they get him to go, they want him to go on some really dangerous mission, and he says, P Corner's looking really good right now. I think it's Pea Corner. I don't think it's Poo Corner. It should be Poo Corner, really.
That'd be the worst corner, yeah.
But it has just recently, in its second season, it took a turn. I've now watched both of the seasons, and it's been renewed. I'm delighted to tell you, for a third season. It took a turn for the serious in this season, and just when I thought it was just being trivial and silly, it did a two-parter, which is like a bit like, did you ever see The Best of Both Worlds from Star Trek The Next Generation?
Yeah, great, yeah.
It's kind of, it echoes that, and it's this really, the stakes are high, and it's just, honestly, Benji, watch it. It does vary, but you buy into the characters, and Seth MacFarlane also writes and directs quite a lot of the episodes.
Where can you watch
and he
it?
does a fine job. Well, I don't know where it's available as a broadcast thing. I bought it on iTunes because someone told me about it, and I said, I don't subscribe to any of those streaming. I think it might be on Sky, but anyway,
Okay.
I've paid
I'll have
for
a
it
look.
on iTunes. Yeah. So I've bought it. I have.
Their uniforms are very Captain Scarlet, aren't they?
Yeah. There's a brilliant episode just recently where sort of Gordon goes back in time to the modern day and turns up at a party, and people say, are you wearing your pajamas? And he goes, yeah, it's for a bet. And they all just accept it and have a beer. There's a lot of drinking. There's a lot of alcohol abuse in it. Anyway, I thoroughly recommend it. I find it moving and funny, and the worst thing I can say about it is that it's just more or less a copy of Star Trek. But that's no bad thing. I love Star Trek.
I'm down for watching that. Yeah, it sounds great.
They just don't have the transporter. That's the only thing they don't have.
How do they get down? Like on a
Shuttle.
little shuttle? Oh, that's quite
Little
good.
shuttle. Yeah. And the effects are amazing. I mean, the big battle in the story is called Identity, parts 1 and 2, that I was just referencing there, where they fight a race called the Kalon. The effect sequence, the space battles, I mean, there's never been anything that spectacular in a Star Trek episode. I think I've got this theory that Seth MacFarlane pulls in a lot of favours with his showbiz connections. I mean, Ted Danson plays one of the admirals he reports to, and Charlize Theron, as I've mentioned before, turns up in one of the episodes, and Jonathan Frakes directs some of them as well. And the actress whose name escapes me just now, who played Councillor Troy in Star Trek: The Next Generation, she turns up in one of the recent episodes.
They really have, really gone for it.
There's several people from the more recent Star Treks have turned up. Beautiful stuff. Great characters, really interesting. That's it.
Great. I think
for what we've been watching recently.
What a great discussion. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, actually. There's lots of food for thought there for people that perhaps thinking of what they want to watch next and can't decide. A bit of sci-fi, a bit of history, a bit of comedy.
Yeah. Also, coming up, we've got the emails in a moment. Then we'll deal with the competition winners, and we'll also be talking to Jamie Anderson if we're lucky, or if he's unlucky. So, do you want to read out the first email?
Certainly can, yeah. This one is from Darren Lodge. Subject to this one is future topic. Sent on the 4th of the 5th, 2019 at 21:21. Double number there. Dear Benji and Nick, good podcast, by the way. Are you ever going to inflict Hartley hair on Benji? Watch some Pipkins, or how about a 50s sci-fi movie special? Maybe he could try a couple of episodes of 90s forgotten classic Bugs. Just a few random thoughts. Keep up the fantastic work. As a suggestion for a classic Doctor Who podcast, maybe The Brain of Morbius. Darren Lodge. Well, I'm very familiar with Hartley Hare. Utterly terrified by Hartley Hare, actually.
Hartley Hare.
Oh, God.
He spoke like that.
Yes.
I mean,
terrifying.
Hartley Hare really...
Pig. He's pig.
Hartley Hare really... I just can't understand how... In a program with quite a cute, all the other characters are fairly nice looking. I mean, I suppose they're not actually. They're sort of. Is it a pig?
Pig. It's called Pig.
Yeah,
Pig. That's why I was saying pig.
Yeah, I didn't grow up with it. Let's put it that way.
Well, I didn't. I was slightly too old for it, but I was. Yes.
Pig.
He had a Brumai accent.
I suppose they are quite horrific, aren't they? All of them, actually. Ugh. Yeah, I don't like that. As for 50s special, what are you thinking, Nick?
Well, yeah, 1950s sci-fi special, was that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What could we do? We could do Village of the Damned.
Village of the Damned, yeah. Day the Earth Stood Still.
The Day the Earth Stood Still. And The Day the Earth Caught Fire. That might be the 60s, though, The Day the Earth Caught Fire.
That could well be.
Do you want to find out?
Of course, The War of the Worlds as well.
Oh, yeah. Dum, dum, dum. That's the gun noise. Sounds like a horse being strangled.
61.
61. Oh, I do reckon. Have you ever seen The Day the Earth Caught Fire?
Yeah, I have. I've got it.
Love
it's downstairs as well. I've recorded it. I think it was recently on Talking Pictures, wasn't it? It
was indeed in a restored version of it. Yes, it was looking beautiful. Beautiful, fantastic film, that.
We just need them to go HD now. That would be lovely.
Well, I don't really care about that.
I like
Bugs. I'm not going to watch Bugs. I feel terrible saying that because of Sam Clemens, mate of mine. You know, his dad Brian Clemens created it. I never was into Bugs, but maybe I should try. Brain of Morbius. I just watched it a couple of weeks ago, mate. So yeah, that's another. I hated it at the time. Brain of Morbius. Really, really hated it.
Oh, I like it. I've always liked.
Oh, I love
Morbius.
it now, but it wasn't to my taste. I missed episode 4 of it for my brother's first wedding. Yeah.
Oh, I hope it lasted.
What?
The marriage.
No, it didn't.
Oh, not worth it then, is it really?
I know. Well, it wasn't worth it at the time, but I was only a youngster. I remember there was a point, I'm sure I've told this story before, we were in Saffron Walden in a sort of village hall, and it was dark and it was snowy. And I remember, and there were no pavements in the country roads. And I looked, I said, I want to go back to the house to watch the final episode of Brain of Morbius. And I think my mum or my brother said, well, go if you like. And I went out there and I just looked into the utter pitch black with no pavements and snow everywhere. I thought, if I do this journey, I am going to die. I'm going to be run over and found in a snowdrift. So, yeah, I didn't see the last episode of Brain and Morbius until it became available on VHS, I think.
God, that's crazy, isn't it? Really. I suppose I'm of the generation where they're sort of all relatively available. They were always on UK Gold or whatever, and most of them on VHS. Yeah. So
yeah, but my Doctor Who fandom is,
you would have been
full
waiting.
Of that things not being available, and thinking I'll never see it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cracking story. The sisterhood of Khan and
Sacred flame.
The flame of Va, the flame of eternal life.
Anyway, look, here's the next blooming email. Note from Tom Hodden to your Facebook page, The Benji and Nick Show, Cult TV podcast. Thomas Hodden. Other people do write in, but we can't resist a Thomas Hodden email. This was sent on the 6th of May. At gone 11:30 in the evening. Chaps, as you approach the finale of your epic commentary, this was about Death to the Daleks, I thought it would be worth taking further stock of the continued career of everybody's favourite alien, Bilal, by considering the numerous spin-off movies that he starred in. I know your listeners will all remember An Exelon Werewolf in London.
Cracker.
And we did not linger on the obvious classic. Okay, we won't then. The next year's crossover event, Bilal on the Buses, has aged less well. Most of the jokes fell a little flat, and scenes where Bilal fails to impress and seduce a group of younger women in the pub was clumsily written, to say the least. 1984's My Bilal Laundrette, however, is rightly lauded.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah. It's rightly lauded as a touching, often heartbreaking romance that, though far from perfect, handled the LGBT characters with deftness and respect that was unheard of at the time. Funk Inferno 3, Bilal Boogaloo, was a completely left-field choice of project, but the thumping bass line of the soundtrack and the dance number in the White City have a cult following on YouTube. My personal favourite appearance was, of course, as Brigadier Bilal Wordsworth in the underrated Jaws 7 Nightmare in Tiger Bay.
Completely agree,
this
underrated.
Salty, retired great white hunter brings a certain level of class to a struggling film. The memorable sequence in which Bilal wrestles with the shark with his bare hands is still edge-of-the-seat stuff. It's a wonder these films are so easily forgotten by many. Yours, T.E. Hodden, sent from somewhere this makes sense.
Just so many classics there, aren't there? People often forget he had such a successful movie and TV career. Yeah, do you remember Saving Private Bilal? Yeah, that's a great one. Go straight into Axis-ruled Europe to find a little Exelon. I mean, it's just, touches you, doesn't it, really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, moving on, this is one from Stephen Lines, sent on the 10th of the 5th, 2019, titled The BNN Show. Dear Benji and Nick, firstly, thanks for your enjoyable podcast, which I've only recently discovered. I'm steadily working my way back through the previous editions and have been delighted to discover you often showcasing the less obvious shows from years past. It is good to hear your views on such series as Special Branch and The Sweeney, and I'm looking forward to whatever you decide to revisit in the future. Despite being a fan of such TV for over 30 years, I have only recently come to appreciate an actor held in high regard by many and who appeared in a number of classic TV series and films, including The Avengers and Get Carter. I am, of course, talking about Ian Hendry. I would be particularly interested if you could ever cover some of his work, and can certainly recommend The Lotus Eaters from 1972, starring Ian and Wanda Ventham. Sorry.
That's Benedict Cumberbatch's mum.
Is it really?
Yeah. And she appears as Holmes's mum in Sherlock, doesn't she?
Yes, I suppose she does, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Good Lord. I have a spare copy of the first coffee. I have a spare copy. A spare coffee, if you fancy it, lads. I have a spare copy of the first series, which I would be happy to donate for your delectation. All the best, Steve Lines.
Thank you, Steve. Wow. The Lotus Eaters. That's one of the ones that I've asked ITC for, actually. Not ITC, I mean Network who release all the ITC stuff. So the Lotus Eaters. What was the Lotus Eaters about? Was it about people who eat lotuses? No.
How does he do it?
He doesn't.
The central characters were a married couple, Eric and Anne Shepherd, who ran a tavern called Shepherd's Bar. Anne is revealed in the first episode to be a sleeper agent of British intelligence. Eric, having been broken down drunk, whom she has made to marry as part of her cover story, doesn't actually say what it is. Series dealt with the lives of various British expats living on the island of Crete and their reasons for being there. Oh, that sounds quite fun.
It's interesting about his character because I don't think I'm saying anything out of turn when I say that Ian Hendry was known as being someone who had an alcohol abuse problem.
So they put it in the story.
Yeah. Also, the Lotus Eaters are an English new wave band formed in 1982 in Liverpool. Their debut single, The First Picture of You, became a hit in the UK and continental Europe, notably France, Italy, Belgium and Spain.
Is that a song that I was actually singing the other day? Hold the fort here, lads. The first picture of you, something of sorrow. Could be that one. I think it actually is that song, which I have no idea who it's by. Let's have a listen. Yeah, I was singing that song the other day, and I had no idea who it was by, and I have no idea why I know it, but apparently I do.
And it's by the Lotus Eaters.
Yeah, how weird is that? Well, now I know. That's going straight in the old doobry.
There you go. Now, thanks, folks, for your emails. Don't forget, you can write to us at podcast@nicholasbriggs.com.
Get them in.
So
get them in.
Send them in with your lovely suggestions. So, on to the competition winners. Now, the question for the competition to give away the tripods was, could you name the cocktail that Jamie, Benji and I were making in our dining experience podcast where we ended up making curry soup,
which is remarkably interesting.
Yes. Now can I just ask you to tell the listeners what happened to that curry soup though?
Well, now this is an interesting revelation. This is. So after the initial creation of the curry soup, Nick declared the following day that he would freeze it and have it another time when needed, perhaps even modify it, or donate it to medical science. And anyway, we got this delightful. Me, Jamie, and Nick have a little group on our phones, and we got a delightful video through of Nick with a lovely bubbling curry soup, which upon the following photo showed looking rather delicious on a plate. And so you rescued it in some way.
I
and
did.
Modified it to look like a very appetising curry.
This is me dishing it up.
One. Check.
I was doing that's it. That's the sound of me reducing it.
The curry soup.
These are the interesting videos that I sent
Well, they're
Jamie and Benji. So it took half an hour of reducing it in the pan, and I got it down to the proper curry consistency. But of course, we were so busy. You know, one of the problems was, dear listeners, that we were drinking too much, and so I wasn't very full of wisdom on the night of the cooking. If only we'd spent half an hour more reducing it, we could have had a much better curry.
I suppose we were hungry though, weren't we?
We were
And
too
especially when
hungry.
you drink, you want food to sort of slow the drinking down a little bit and to fill
We
you
did
out
that
a bit.
student type thing, didn't we? It doesn't matter whether the food's any good, I just want it now.
Yeah, this is the problem, isn't it? But it was a thoroughly enjoyable evening though.
It was. So anyway, it was nice. And one of the things we were being distracted by were the curry, the cocktails that Jamie decided to do a homemade version of a cocktail which he and I had drunk in a wonderful place that will remain nameless. And the cocktail was called Hammer of God. So that was the answer to the question. And the person who got it right, a lot of people got it wrong, actually. A lot of people said Hand of God.
Interesting, the Hand of God.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be the new cocktail that we can make together.
Well, indeed. This is from Rachel Severn. And she says, she titled the email correctly as Drinkies. And she said, goodness at the beginning, entering into the spirit of the Benji and Nick show. Also, she's used a little sort of cocktail emoji thing as well. Hello, Funky Ben and Grumpy Nick. Ha 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 emoji. The delicious cocktail enjoyed perhaps too freely in the dining experience was Hammer of God, and apparently it delivers a quick knock to the senses, judging by how silly you all got later.
Very much so.
Big laugh and thumbs up. Please pick me. I will treat the tripods with tender, loving care. Although all I have seen so far is the great theme tune sequence, it looks intriguing. I have a region-free DVD player, so I'm able to play it no problem. I seem to like many of the same things Benji likes: synth, labyrinth, medieval stuff. So I'm willing to give the tripods a try in capitals. See what I did there? A try. Oh, tripod. Thanks for. Anyway, Rachel is from Ohio in the USA. So
well,
that's
Rachel, you've clearly got great taste in interests. So I really hope you enjoy it. Congratulations on winning the tripods, and thank you to everybody that entered in as well.
Yes, very well
lovely
said,
people,
Benji.
and thank you very much.
I mean, obviously the postage is going to cost a bit, but
well, that's the
what the hey?
What the heck? Well, we have another competition, haven't we, Nick?
Yes, go on. Tell us all about it.
Well, this one is from Coit Media, who have happily put forward this competition for us to do on the Benji and Nick show. It's for a book called Playboys, Spies and Private Eyes, and specialises in the wonderful ITC productions of old. Let me get it up. I'll read a little thing about what it is. Playboys, Spies and Private Eyes. That's me typing it in.
And me singing along.
ITC Entertainment was a powerhouse of film, television, drama from the 1950s to the 1980s, producing a succession of hit adventure series such as The Saint, Danger Man, The Prisoner, Man in a Suitcase, The Champions, Randall and Hopkirk, brackets deceased, and The Persuaders. Edited by Alan Hayes and Rick Davey, Playboys, Spies and Private Eyes, inspired by ITC, celebrates the company's remarkable legacy with 35 chapters by a wide range of writers who explore how the series have touched their lives. Now, absolutely brilliant. This is published in aid of the Born Free Foundation as well.
Born Free.
Born Free. It's an absolute steal, and we're so thankful as well to Rick Davey for putting this forward as well. So it is now time to reveal the winning article. The winner of this one, and we've got an email here, is from Lance Harrington. The email here is: Hi chaps, trying this again as my first attempt didn't work. The answer to the ITC competition is one of my favourite shows, The Avengers. So, and that's sent from eSpace, interestingly there. Lance is from Essex. So, Lance, thank you so much. Congratulations on winning a copy of that. So, that will get sent out to you, no problem.
Yes, from Coit Media. Also, everyone who entered that competition will be sent an email which gives them a link to something where they will get 50% off the book. If they so wish.
50% off, that's smashing.
I don't think we mentioned did we mention what the question was?
I suppose we didn't know.
We just said what the answer was. There were a selection of titles, and you were asked to identify which wasn't an ITC release. There was The Champions and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, The Avengers was the one that was not made by ITC. So there you go.
Shocking stuff there. Shocking.
So, talking of shocking, let's see if Jamie Anderson's around. Oh, as a dog. All I can see is a dog. Is that Ernie?
Ah, that's very rude.
Jamie looks like a dog.
Thank
Woof,
you.
woof.
No, that was Ernie.
Show Ernie again so I can show it to Benji.
Oh, what a noble dog. Very noble stance. Oh.
He is.
No,
He's
I've
also
just had
kid.
I've just had a text from my wife saying dinner will be ready in 6 minutes. So
Oh, no.
so you've got 6 minutes or less.
Well, I'll definitely be less, don't worry.
Okay. How's your day been?
Yes, it's been fine, thank you. Do you not find that Mondays are bitty days where you sort of you're awash with stuff where people have suddenly gone, oh, the weekend's over, I've got to do things.
Yes. Oh, what about you, Benji? How's your Monday been?
Been productive Monday. Been a productive Monday.
Good.
Although I've got indigestion, so it kind of brings it down to earth a bit, doesn't it?
Oh, no, what caused that? What did he eat or not eat?
I've eaten a diet of purely toast today because I've been too lazy to make anything else.
You've only eaten toast on a Monday?
Yeah, well, I've been.
That's weird.
You know, I wanted a quick breakfast to get things done, and then I was running a bit late, and Nick said, "Do you want a podcast?" And so I thought, what can I eat? Toast.
So it's your fault that he's got indigestion, really?
Yes.
It's all right. I've got Rennie's.
Oh, phew. I was worried for a moment.
Well, give them back to Rennie.
Sorry, here you go, Rennie.
I had something for lunch. Steph asked me, she just left some bread out, buttered, and she said to me as we were walking down to the school this afternoon, she said, what did you put in that sandwich, by the way, that you had? And I said, peanut butter and tomato, which she found utterly revolting. Is that revolting?
I'm not revolted, but I'm interested.
Well, that's great. Often when have you ever listened? You've never listened to this podcast, do you, Jamie?
I do listen to it, but I haven't listened for a while, to be fair.
I'm just wondering whether I've been offensive. I said we're speaking to Jamie Anderson later because we'd like to speak to Jerry Anderson, but he's dead. So that's not. You've answered my question. I just wondered whether that was tactless. Oh, he's hung up. No.
No, it would have been tactless 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, when he was still alive, you
10
mean?
years ago, yeah. Yes. No, I think that's perfectly acceptable. One has to laugh at these things.
Yes, indeed.
If only to make you feel better.
Thanks, mate. Got away with that. Benji, do you have a random question for Jamie?
Yeah, why not? Why not? I've got the random question generator here, which states, what used to be considered trashy, but now is very classy?
I don't know. I'm not really a purveyor of trash or class. More sort of mediocre stuff. Yeah, I don't know, actually. That will require a lot more thought than I was anticipating for a question from Benji.
Well, in that case, I'll give you a quick bonus question.
Yeah, I prefer another one.
If you were wrongfully put into an insane asylum, how would you convince them that you're actually sane and not pretending to be sane?
What? Has he gone to the difficult questions list today? I mean, that there is actually one of my greatest fears. Alongside being falsely accused of a crime or anything, is finding myself in a situation like that. So, I mean, I think other than, going along with what I'm told to do and behaving in a rational way and not screaming and shouting is probably about all one can do. But what a horrible thought. Thanks for ruining my evening, Benji.
It's all right. Well, it's what I do.
I hope you enjoy your indigestion.
Don't blame me. Blame conversationstartersworld.com.
Oh, is that the website where he gets this nonsense from?
It's great. There's loads of good things, and
And what are you having for dinner, Nick Briggs?
I've no idea.
You don't know?
No. Probably just to spite me, more peanut butter and tomato made into a stew. We've been entertaining the listener with the sound of my video of the curry I reduced.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
And it did look delicious after you know.
It's gorgeous, mate. Gorgeous.
All right. Well, we'll have to have curry round 2, and you can
Do it properly.
do a less liquidy job.
Stop right there. Steph said to me it was a mistake using the pressure cooker. Anyway, on that bombshell, I say ta-ta to you, Jamie. Thank you for joining us for this meaningful discussion.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for having me, and enjoy your respective indigestion and unknown dinner.
Unknown dinner. Cheerio.
Bye.
Bye.
Right, well, there we are. The lovely Jamie
There we go.
Anderson.
Bingo.
So, just time to tell the listeners that next week we will be starting our commentary of Doctor Who Revenge of the Cybermen.
Oh, yes.
It'll be part 1. Yes, indeed.
It's happening.
The 1975 classic that we talked about a couple of podcasts ago. We are now going to do commentary of it, episode by episode. That's it.
That's it. Well, it's been a pleasure as always. I suppose it's now time to get nice and close into the microphone there.
Yeah,
It's that time. My glasses are steaming up from talking so close to something. So from me, it's goodbye.
And from me, it's goodbye too. Pressing stop now. Ka-chunk.